Okay, welcome back again to our class for today. Today's class will be talking about some key concepts in HTML. Some key concepts in HTML. So the first one we're going to be looking at is what we call the HTML elements. HTML is composed of elements which are defined using tags. An example of an element is so let me write. So today we're talking about key elements, key concepts in HTML. Okay. Key concept in HTML. Okay, and so we're saying, what is this first one we're talking about? We're talking about what we call elements. Elements in HTML. If you remember in the last class, we talked about HTML being a markup language. Okay, so what does that mean? I will say that it's a markup language. Okay, now alright, so when we talk about being a markup language, these are just normal characters, English characters, alphabetical characters, okay, that are simply written in a different form to make it look HTML character. Okay, so when we talk about this element, what are we talking about? Let's say, for example, we may have a B. Okay, this is a character in the English language. This is normal. We want to say, what is this? What do we call this? We'll say this is letter B. Okay, we'll say this is letter B. Alright, so this is in English language, this is what it is, letter B. Now, if we want to turn this to become an HTML element, what do we do? All we simply need to do is to take this B, okay, and then place it within a less than and greater than symbol. Okay, so the moment we do this, it ceases to be an English character, okay, and then becomes a markup language. It becomes an HTML character. So what we're simply saying is HTML characters, okay, are just English language characters or words that are enclosed within a less than and greater than symbol. The moment you have them enclosed in a less than or greater than symbol, they cease to become English language character, and then they become an HTML character. Okay, so at the moment you enclose them in this less than or equal or greater than symbol, okay, from that moment they have become elements. Alright, the moment you put them in the less than or greater than symbol, okay, from that moment they become what we call HTML tags. They become what we call tags. Alright, they become tags. Now the combination of tags and elements or a content inside, the combination of tags and content is what we now regard to as elements. So take, for example, when we talk about an element, we said it is a combination of tags and content. So when we talk about tags, an element must contain what we call an opening tag, okay, then followed by a content, okay, and then now have what we call a closing tag. So when we're talking about an HTML element, not just an element, HTML element, okay, contains what we call an opening tag, a content, and then what we call a closing tag. Okay, this is what we call an element. So here is an example of what we call an element. It has an opening tag followed by contents. When we say content, we are saying that whatever you have in between the opening and the closing tag, that's what we refer to as content. Okay, so for example, this, if you say this is a boy, okay, that's a content. Right? So if you say this is a boy, okay, this is also a content. Or you say I love to play games, okay, this is also called a content. So this is an opening tag followed by a content inside the tags and then followed by a closing tag. This is a typical example of what we refer to as an HTML element. Alright, so the second thing we'll be looking at, the second key concept in HTML that we'll be quickly talking about is what we call attributes. Attributes, what are attributes? Just like if I say, what is the attribute of this boy? What is the attribute of this girl? So we are simply saying that we are simply looking for a way to provide more information about an entity, more information about a person or an object. So those additional information that we are providing about that person or that object is what we call attribute. So when we say, it's just like saying what are the characteristics of a particular thing, right? So when we come to HTML, and then we are talking about attributes of tags, alright? So these tags can have attributes that provide additional information, okay, about a certain element. And these attributes are always included in the opening tag, not in the closing tag now. Alright, so in the opening tag, alright, and then normally to follow the format of names is equals to this. We're going to do 1 and 2 so that we'll see what we're talking about. So what are some of these examples? So let's really talk about let's pick an element, for example. Okay, let's still maintain this element, alright. So for example, I want to give more details about this. I love to play games. What can I actually do here? Alright, or okay, let me pick another tag. Let's pick another tag. So another tag that we have, HTML tag that we have, let's say we have an image. Let's say we have an image. Okay, now when you pick this as an example, okay, now we have what we call SRC. What does this SRC mean? Simply means a source. Okay, so this is an example of what we call attribute. Alright, because this is also going to give more details about, this is an image tag. Alright, this allows us to bring in an image into our web page. Alright, so we are saying that okay, we are bringing in an image tag. So we now want to say, okay, where are we bringing the image from? That's what this SRC means, source. So we'll now specify where we are getting the image from. Whether we are getting it from, what's it called now? From a local device or from somewhere. So we specify where we are getting it. Then we also have another attribute to say, okay, this is another attribute called alternative. Alternative here means that in case the image is not showing on the web page, okay, so we want something else to show, to represent that there is an image, there is something in that particular area of the web page. So these are attributes. Okay, let's also use another tag called input. Now for this input, we have an attribute. So we are saying what kind of inputs. We are saying okay, we want it to be text. Then we can also have another input to say okay, what name are we giving it. So we can give it and say, you can give it any name. Alright, so I'm using input here. You can give it any name, say input. Then we want to also give another attribute to say, okay, what other attributes? Let's say we're having a placeholder, right? So what do we want the placeholder of that input box to be? So we'll say maybe, say text, for example, we'll say text. Okay, I believe most of us would have seen something like this, alright? Just to show that, okay, this is what we're putting here. Alright, then we also have another attribute called class attribute. We can also have an ID attribute and so on and so forth. So what we're simply saying when we talk about attribute is that anything that you put inside this opening tag of any HTML tags, okay, those are what we call attribute, because those attributes are there to actually give more details about a particular tag. I hope this is clearly understood. Okay, so what other thing do we want to talk about? Quickly, let's talk about some tags, common tags that are used when it comes to HTML. Let's talk about some common tags. Common tags in HTML. Okay, what are some of these common tags? We have what we call the headings, the heading tags. So this heading tag is it's just a tag that helps you to put your headings. Okay, you want to give an heading to a certain thing or certain text or certain write-up that you're putting on the web page. Okay, you call the heading tags, and these heading tags ranges or goes from what we call the H1 to H6. Okay, it goes from H1 to H6. Like we have H1, H2, we have H3, we have H4, we have H5, and we have lastly H6. Okay, so we have this. So look at the difference here. If I have heading, so I have another heading, you can see the sizes varies. Heading, 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 heading. So you can actually see what happens here. The sizes goes or ranges from H1 to H6, okay, with differences in the sizes.